Good morning, people. Happy Sunday. How's everybody? All good? Ready to go? We're going to be doing some heavy duty talking today, so hopefully you guys are ready. Seems like everybody is here a little bit early today, which is fantastic. I'm going to be just adjusting something here. I don't need reverb on my voice. How's everybody doing? Happy Father's Day, everyone. How many fathers are in the house today? Dad rockers. And I was looking at the chat as the show was about to start. So I see that our good friend Shane has a birthday today. So happy birthday, Shane. I hope you guys are going to be giving Shane a little bit of love today. Hopefully, Shane's got something big planned for his birthday, something fun. You got to celebrate. So Shane, what's the number today? If you don't want to share, it's fine. But if you just wondering what birthday we're celebrating this year. Welcome to everybody that's already here. We have a few people ready to start the chat. I think everybody here probably has other plans today. If you're a dad, you probably are going to be doing something special with your family, or so we're going to try and keep this one, to about an hour. Still a lot of stuff to talk about, so we're going to have to talk rather quickly. As per usual, you guys, the show is an open platform, right? So if anybody here has something that they want to talk about, then please don't hesitate. So Shane says he's born June 15th, 1972. Cool. So you're a couple of years older. Excuse me. Now, I don't know if you have any gear lined up for your birthday, Shane. Maybe you put in a request with your family or your wife or, your kids or something, but that's always a great time to kind of sneak in some new gear. It's hard for them to say no when it's your birthday, you know what I mean? So let us know if you had anything lined up in that regards. Otherwise, happy birthday. Have an extra slice of birthday cake for us. And wishing you a fantastic year. I hope this year brings you lots of gear, lots of fun, and most of all, health. A few more people will probably trickle in as the show continues today. We're going to be talking about a lot of gear, a lot of interesting things that have happened over the week. First, I want to just mention that for those of you that are, I often see familiar faces here. So welcome to all the people that are here as regulars. And if you're new, then please don't hesitate to chat with us. You have to subscribe. So you have to hit that subscription. Otherwise, you won't be able to chat if you're new. But the good news is it only takes a minute. Big shout out to the sponsor. In case you guys haven't already seen that little reel that goes on before the show starts. The show is sponsored by THU. And if you guys haven't already checked it out, I highly recommend that you do. It's a powerful tone modeling platform from Overloud. And basically, you have everything in there from classic amps, boutique setups, custom rigs. And they have some of the most realistic amps and effects tones out there in software form. So you don't necessarily have to have the actual hardware. You can just do it all via software today. So thank you to them for sponsoring the show. And let's dive in. Who's ready to talk gear? Anybody have something they want to bring up right off the bat? Hey, JP, how's it going, man? Thanks, dude. Indeed, I did celebrate Father's Day a little early. I'm not actually celebrating it today. I actually celebrated yesterday because all my kids are busy. They're running around, so we have to find time to squeeze some Father's Day celebrations in, and we did that yesterday. So today I'm kind of free. And when I'm free, I'm going to be recording some videos. So I'm going to try and squeeze in a few new videos this week because I have a lot of stuff that has been lingering, and I'm starting to feel guilty now. I got to hurry up and produce some new stuff here because you guys are waiting. I hope you're waiting. All right. So let's start. As per usual, guys. If you have a question that is dedicated to me, or specifically you want me to answer, just put a question mark ahead of the question so I know it's mine. Otherwise, it's an open question to everyone here. Okay. All right. So I wanted to start talking about some sad news. I don't want to bring the show down or anything, but we did lose Brian Wilson this past week, which is heartbreaking for sure, especially if you guys, um, are fans of the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson. He definitely made a mark in the music industry. So if you guys, anybody here, Beach Boy fan, I love the Beach Boys. I mean, it's hard to be in a bad mood when you're listening to Beach Boys music, especially in the summertime. If you're somewhere where there's sand, maybe some beers, some good-looking women in bathing suits, and you're playing the Beach Boy music, how could you be in a bad mood with that? I can't. Anyways, he did pass away, unfortunately. So it's a sad day. He obviously had his own issues throughout his life, but he definitely he definitely left his mark. Shane says, Brian Wilson, you mean the guy in the Bare Naked Ladies song? The Beach Boys, dude. Yeah. Anyways, he did have his own health issues. I think he had something called synesthesia. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's some sort of a condition where you get sensory. You basically experience things involuntarily. So like your senses experience involuntary triggers. So, I think it was often said, I don't know if he said it or other people said it, that he often saw music as colors, which could be pretty freaky if you're a musician and you're starting to, you hear music as colors. But, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I know Jean-Pierre is a huge Beach Boy fan. I know, man. So it's a sad day for you for sure. But hang in there. I think Jean-Pierre even actually had an opportunity to meet the man, which is rare. So, yeah. From what I hear, I mean, there's a lot of hearsay and rumors about him, and he did. I think at one point somebody mentioned that back in like the '60s he took LSD for the first time, and he claimed that it opened his mind to deeper musical ideas. And I think that's what inspired him to write Pet Sounds and Smile. But I think it also at the same time, intensified his struggles with mental illness, because that'll do it to you if you're not well up there and you're experimenting or playing around with LSD. It's definitely not gonna have a positive effect on you. So yeah, interesting life for sure. At the end, I think he was basically under 24/7 supervision, and apparently some doctor was basically controlling almost all of his life in terms of like 24-hour care. But he wrote some great songs, man. Surfer Girl, In My Room, lots of other songs. I can only start. If I start rattling them off, there's too many. There's too many. But the funny thing is, he's part of the Beach Boys, but he never actually liked surfing, apparently. He didn't like surfing at all, which is weird if you're a Beach Boy. I think it would have to be mandatory. Anyway, so rest in peace, Brian Wilson. He will be sadly missed. Legacy, for sure, in the music industry. And once again, Keith Richards outlives another one, man. It's amazing. David says, the old saying, there's a fine line between genius and insanity. It's actually true. Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people that are considered geniuses are often on the verge, a fine line between the two. So yeah, I think a lot of people consider Brian Wilson a musical genius, but And I think he was also deaf or partially deaf in one ear. And there's a whole bunch of rumors around that as well. And if you guys are Beach Boy fans, you already probably heard all this stuff. So yeah. JP says after taking LSD in 1964, he started to hear voices in his mind and never stopped afterwards. This is the thing, man. A lot of people have experienced stuff like that on LSD that basically exacerbates a lot of conditions. I think if I remember correctly, Santana's drummer in the early days, and I don't remember his name right now, but he went off the rails on LSD. He basically took LSD and he couldn't function after that. It really messed him up, and a lot of people seem to have had that experience. This is why I never experimented with LSD, even though people say that it's sort of the ignition fuel, if you can call it that, to music. And that's why we had such great music back in the day, because of LSD. And I don't know if that's true, but I think it's partially true. There's got to be some truth in that, because the music was definitely better back in the day. Same thing with Pink Floyd, Syd Barrett. I'm sure him going off the rails definitely probably had something to do with LSD and all of that. So yeah. Anyway, let's carry on. We're not going to dwell on that today. Just wanted to mention it. I'm just scrolling back to see if there's any question marks for me here. So let's see here. David says, has anyone else watched Made in China? The story behind the label. A symphony of guitars. It features eArt or Art Factory. No, where do you get that, David? Is that on Netflix or something? Sounds interesting. I'd like to see that. Shane says, no new gear since the looper pedal, but I went out to a live jam. That was lots of fun. That's a great way to spend the day, man. Live music is always great. Rexomatic says, good morning from Phoenix, having fun experimenting with old guys. New guitars YouTube series. All right, I'm going to take a look at that. Lots of new stuff. Andrew says, the new Line 6 Helix Stadium. So I guess you want me to talk about that a little bit. Yeah, we'll touch on that for sure. It's in my my talking notes for today. Vox says he sees Telecaster. Goodness, this is one of my favorite Telecasters, man. It's so good. Sorry, I can't help myself. I've been listening to a heck of a lot of Rolling Stones this week. I actually enjoy playing complete albums when I'm driving, and mostly I'm heading off to work or other places, and I have a little bit of time in the car, and I like to put on an album and listen to it all. I'm trying to stop listening to music in spurts, because all of this streaming is terrible. It just doesn't give you, the whole experience of the artwork, because music is art. So anyways, I started listening to an old album that I really like from the Rolling Stones called Tattoo You. And definitely reappreciated that album. It's been a long time since I listened to it all the way through. And it's a great album, man. I don't know if anybody over here likes that album or is into the Rolling Stones, but the riff I was playing there actually is off of one of the songs, which is called Slave, if you recognized it. and it's fantastic, man. It's just a great album. That album, I don't remember when it came out. I think it came out in 81, maybe 80. I used to listen to that album all the time when I was a kid, just because I had the album. It was fantastic. And that was one of the albums that was kind of done in a bad time for the Rolling Stones, because basically Keith Richards and Mick Jagger during that period were hardly talking to each other. So what they did is they went back and they got a whole bunch of music that they had recorded here and there, and basically put that album together. So it's kind of like a Frankenstein kind of album, you know. A lot of stuff ended up happening during those years, but that's a great album. So good with the saxophone, keyboards, just the groove and the feel and the vibe of some of those songs was fantastic. Of course, Start Me Up is on that album as well. A lot of great songs. I think that's around the period where I don't know if you've seen that video where Keith Richards is on stage during a concert and somebody jumps on stage. A fan rushes, I think, Mick Jagger or Keith Richards while they're playing Satisfaction. And Keith Richards just takes his Telecaster and uses it like a club. Basically just belts the guy. And then the best part is he just takes the guitar back, puts it on again and just continues playing. He didn't even miss a beat. I love it. I love that. Keith Richards is great, man. He's fantastic. And that's speaking of LSD and all of that kind of stuff, that's when they had their jet that was painted with the lips on the rear wing. And that plane was known as the Flying Pharmacy. Apparently there was a lot of stuff in the nose of that plane that shouldn't have been there. But yeah, it's fantastic. Great album. If you guys don't know the album, man, listen to it. It's fantastic. All right. Let's see here. There was other questions. I'm just scrolling by, and I'm sorry if I'm going off topic here, left and right. I just want to share with you what's been going on. Shane says, what is everyone playing today? My green Telecaster is on my lap. So great minds think alike. I'm enjoying my Telecaster. This Telecaster I've played before. You've probably seen this Telecaster. Fantastic little guitar. I don't know. This is one of my favorites. It just plays so well. Can do it all. Heavy rock, cleans, everything. Just love it. This is one of the guitars I wouldn't get rid of. I actually play this more than my 52 reissue. I'd get rid of my 52 reissue before this one. And this one's just a Mexican. It's a Mexican... It's one of the, I guess one of their, I don't know if it's one of their Road Worn series or it's just got Road Worn over time. But when I bought it, it was already kind of, had some dings and stuff. Candy apple red, you can see the gold underneath. And I don't know if these things, I mean, I don't know. It's just fantastic. All right. Vox says it will be a sad day when everyone else has passed away and Keith has no one to play for. Yeah, I have a feeling that day will come. That guy, man, he's amazing. Good genes. What else is everyone else playing? Jeff says we lost PMT Music this week. Another multi-store retailer gone. I heard about that, Jeff. Like, I'm not familiar with that chain all that much. That's an American chain, I believe. So I'm not that familiar with them, but yeah, it's getting bad, man. I don't know what's going on, but it seems like music retailers are having an uphill battle, and it's gonna get worse, man. Because here, I don't know if you guys know what's going on, but in where the province that I live is called Quebec. It's in Canada, right? It's and there's big language laws. I mean, the primary language here is French in Quebec. So, English is a little bit poo-pooed. It's not like people don't necessarily want to hear English or see English. So most of the retailers now, when it comes to music stores, are kind of being forced. There's new laws coming into play where any kind of products that go into the market have to have French labeling, or at least bilingual labeling. And all of the music stores were basically complaining that's not going to happen. And I think this new law says that if it doesn't have it, you can't sell it. So if that's the case, then a lot of instruments are going to become very, very rare in this province, because there's been already a lot of talk about, the fact that, people like Fender, Gibson, and all these people are not going to change their manufacturing methods because of the volume that Quebec buys, because it's just too small. So they're not going to do that. So you'll either end up having stickers on everything, maybe, I don't know, or there'll be a problem. But a lot of, if you go out and buy a fractal, for example, or a pedal or whatever, I mean, people don't think about French. They think English mostly, because English is the universal language most of the time. So everything you buy is usually in English, even stuff that comes from France. So I don't know what's going to happen, but that's definitely going to hurt retailers. And retailers are already struggling. Every time I go to a music store, it's practically empty. The people working there are basically killing spiders during the day because they have nothing else to do. So I hope it doesn't put the final nail in the coffin, but I have a feeling that a lot of shops are going to hurt. And so Vinny wants to know if I'm francophone. I do speak French. I speak French. I speak English. I speak Italian. I speak a few different languages. It's very difficult to live in a province like Quebec and not speak French, because that's the primary language. If you're working in a company and the company is above a certain amount of people, they mandate that French has to be the first language. So you got to be able to speak both French and English. And I encourage, the more languages you learn, the better it is. I have nothing against speaking more than one language. It's definitely a plus no matter where you go. Unfortunately, though, the issue that I have with that, and I don't want to go into that, I don't start talking politics. The issue I have with that is that the government is basically slowly forcing only French. So what's going to happen is a lot of francophones that are born French, in a French family, and are growing up in Quebec will never be exposed to another language, which is, to me, terrible. Because if ever you leave the province or you intend to expand your horizons, you're going to be very seriously handicapped if the only language you can speak is French. Because, businesses around the world tend to speak English. So, I've worked for companies that are from France, and I was speaking English 90% of the time there, because it's international. So it's not a good thing to be doing, but unfortunately, the government does want to maintain control, right? That's the main thing. So how do you do that? You keep people ignorant, unfortunately. But taking away that right is not right for me. Anyways, that's all I want to say. I'm not going to go into that in more detail than that. If you're familiar with the situation, it's been happening here for over 40 years and it's never going to change. So here we go. Jeff says we have similar nonsense language laws in Wales. It's a nightmare reading road signs. You've passed it before you ever read it. I always wonder how Americans do it when they come here. Well, actually, we see less and less Americans. When I was younger, I used to see American license plates every day. People from all over. New York, Boston, Massachusetts, everywhere. Now, it's rare when I see a license plate from another place. I think it's very difficult for Americans once they're here, because they don't speak French primarily. It's hard to read signs because everything's in French. So if you're driving down the street, you're going to have a hard time reading road signs. So they're most likely going to Toronto instead, you know, or Ontario or whatever. It's a shame because Montreal is a beautiful place and Quebec is a beautiful place. Anyway, all right, that's enough of that. Let's talk gear, guys. Oh, by the way, guys, this week, instead of putting a poll question out there for you guys, what I did was I put out a little quiz. And if you haven't seen it, if you go to my channel, you can see it. It's in the post section. And I'll read it to you in case you haven't had an opportunity to see it. And I highly encourage you guys to answer it. I'm curious to see who's on the ball here. There's 80 people that answered it. So the quiz question for today was, why are fret markers, these babies, why are they typically located or placed on the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th fret, the 9th fret, and the 12th fret? And obviously it repeats after that. Why is that? Do you guys know? So basically that's the question for today. You still have a chance to answer that question. Please go ahead and answer it when you have a minute, and we'll give you the answer at the end. Just curious. I like the poll questions, but I like the little quiz questions better because it actually teaches us something, you know. So maybe I'll alternate between a poll and a quiz and stuff like that. So who's new here today this week? If you are new, please just type in new. I see a few new names here, and I want to welcome you guys. I like to see new faces. It's always nice. And I think somebody was asking me earlier if I'm playing through the THX software today. I am not. I am not playing through it. I'm playing through my Fractal. And the reason why I'm playing through the Fractal and not the THX software is just because streaming is very difficult for me to patch the sound through software when I'm already going through software for streaming. It just causes, it's not made for that, right? It's made to play on your computer or to play as a VST. But the software that I use is the software that I use is not really made for that. So you can't really set it up to do that so that I can hear it and you can hear it at the same time without any lag. So that's the reason why I'm not using it. Now, if I can figure out how to do that, and there probably is a way, I'm not sure. I would have to talk to the people from the company. Maybe they know a way of doing that. It's a challenge. So I prefer not to use it and just go through my Fractal. But I will do a review of the software for you guys. I'll show you the ins and outs of it. It's really cool. There's so much you can do with it. And there's great emulations in there. So if you're not looking at spending money on gear, you don't have the space for it or whatever, and you have a laptop, you're in business. I think you could even run it off an iPad. All right. So Rico says, 3rd week in a row seems Tony can't see any of my questions. Gotta run. Have a great Father's Day. I think I pissed off Rico. Oh man, Rico's not having a good day today. Sorry, Rico. There's a lot of questions flying by. If he's still around, I'll see what his questions are here. I'm just scrolling, guys. Just scrolling. We don't mean to piss anyone off. I'm still looking. Rico says I missed his question. So let me scroll. It's there somewhere. It probably popped up very early on. And since all the questions scroll, okay, there we go. Rico wanted to know, and Rico, if you're still here, do you ever adjust the height of pole pieces on your humbuckers? Yes, I do, actually. I do that all the time. I like to adjust the poles just to align with the curvature of the neck or the fretboard, because your fretboard is not flat. and your strings are not flat if you set them up properly. On a Les Paul, the bridge is pretty much flat-ish, but a lot of people, what they'll end up doing is that they'll notch the saddles so that you can actually get a better curve. And a lot of people don't do that on a Les Paul. I don't know why that is, but a lot of people just leave it as is from the shop, and a lot of times it's set relatively flat, but your fretboard is not flat. So I highly encourage you guys to kind of notch your saddles to follow the curvature of the neck, and you're going to have a better setup, way better setup. That's something that I think a lot of people don't think about on a Les Paul. On a Strat, you have the ability to adjust the saddles independently to follow the curve of the neck. So I do that all the time. But on a Les Paul, it's basically you're raising the tailpiece or the bridge as a whole. So it's limited in what you can do. So hopefully that answers your question, Rico. Maybe if you don't see it now, maybe you'll see it on the rerun. But that is how I tackle those things. Jean-Pierre's bringing up old stories. The good old days, the good old days. All right, let's look at some of other topics that I have here today. We mentioned, some people mentioned some new releases that are coming out. There's a lot of interesting things that I see coming out right now. A few different things that have caught my eye. The Helix Stadium is one of them, and a lot of people are anticipating that release. It's gonna come, I think it's gonna be released soon. I'm not sure when the actual product will be released, but I think it's gonna happen shortly. And apparently it's gonna be wow. Apparently people are waiting for that with bated breath, because it's gonna apparently change things a little bit. So I'm wondering what they can possibly update. I know Line 6 does come out with very good hardware. I've owned Line 6 products in the past, and they do sound fantastic. I think the Stadium possibly will be trying to compete with brands like Fractal. We'll see. We'll see just how much it can do. A lot of times, sound-wise, they're fantastic. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't get one of these Line 6 products, because they do sound great. The only difference, I would say, between like a prosumer or a consumer product and a pro product is the amount of customization that's built into the product. And for Fractal, you can customize all you want, maybe too much. But for most people, that's not what you need. People don't even use, I don't even use 10% of what you can do with the Fractal, and I would say like I'm pretty familiar with multi-effects units, but a lot of people don't even use that. They'll just use it out of the box. So I'm curious to see what they're going to be releasing and how it's going to sound. I'm sure it's going to be all over the internet. Don't worry. There'll be plenty of reviews on that product. But apparently they say it's brand new modeling technology designed from the ground up, basically. And it's going to be something special. High definition, they call it. And it's also going to have a touch screen on it. So it's basically going to display everything. Apparently amps, effects. It's going to be able to connect via Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all kinds of stuff. So I'm very curious. I'm going to see. Maybe it'll knock my Fractal off of my desk. I don't know. We'll see. But I will definitely want to check it out. Paul says, you only use liquid paper white because there wasn't any candy apple red. Hey, back in those days, it was slim pickings, Paul. You had to use what you can get. So Vox says, I adjust pull pieces on my humbucker all the time. Dylan Talks Tone says it's backwards. And when screw is adjusted higher, the output goes down. I found the opposite thoughts. I don't understand the question. I adjust pull pieces on my humbucker all the time. Dylan Talks Tone says it's backwards. And when your screw is adjusted higher, the output goes down. And I found the opposite. I don't hear a difference. For the amount that I adjust, I mean, I'm not sticking out that screw by a quarter of an inch or pushing it in a quarter of an inch. It's usually going to be flat with the top of the humbucker, or it's going to be maybe, I don't know, a half turn to maybe 2 turns over the height of the pickup cover. So honestly, I don't really hear that much difference. I would say it tends to be louder, not less loud. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm missing something here. Boomerang says it was game over for me after purchasing a Fractal. It's all I need. And a decent PC. Yeah, Fractal is probably more than what I need, to be honest with you, Boomerang. I still, I'm only using a small percentage of what it can do. And that is one of the disadvantages with the Fractal, is that you almost need like an intensive course to understand all the ins and outs that it can offer, because just a manual doesn't cut it. And people are using it in such creative ways, in ways that I haven't even like thought of yet. It's amazing. So yeah. All right, so we talked about the Stadium. What else do we want to talk about today? Before I forget, Fender is releasing another Tone Master amp. If you guys don't know, the Tone Master line from Fender is their transistor line, in which they kind of mimic the sound of their tube amps, but in a transistor format. And they've been quite popular. I think a lot of people, they've come out with quite a few in terms of the deluxe. I think they have a Princeton now and quite a few other ones. Well, I guess people were asking for a tweed version of the Tone Master line. And apparently Fender is going to be releasing one. That's going to be interesting. I don't know how well it's going to reproduce the tone from a tweed amp. If you know about tweed, it does have a very specific type of sound and breakup. And that is really, really tied into the fact that, it's a tube amp and the actual circuit is quite simple. So I'm wondering how well they're going to pull that off. I'm curious. I've been playing with the idea of possibly getting a tweed amplifier, but I haven't pulled the trigger on one yet because they're kind of they're like one-trick ponies. When you have a tweed amp, you can do, it sounds glorious if you like that tweed sound, but there's not much else you can do with it if you're trying to be versatile. Like, it's not the single grab and go amp that you're gonna select if you're perhaps playing in a cover band, for example. It can't do it all, but it does sound fantastic if you really are after that tweed sound. So, and they're pretty expensive. There's a lot of clones out there right now, and if you want the real thing, hand wired, or something that is not circuit board based, they're expensive. So I haven't pulled the trigger on one yet. Anybody here a fan of that tweed sound? I'm just wondering what you guys think, if any of you do have one of those, or if that's your main amplifier, your main gigging amp. It's funny because the tweed sound is often associated with Keith Richards, right? But I think Keith, he may have used tweed amps. I'm not sure if that's the only amp that he used. I think he alternated by through a few different amps over the years. I know at one point he was playing Mesa Boogie amps. There's a lot of different amps that he was playing over the years, and a Tweed could be definitely. I've seen him playing a Tweed style amplifier, but don't forget these amps are highly modified. So even though they might look like stock amplifiers, they're usually not. He's often using Keith is often using an Ampeg, a V4 Ampeg. Have you guys seen these? These are kind of very old looking amplifiers. They sound pretty good. I mean, they have a distinct sound to them. I don't see many people using them today though. But he has used a Fender Twin Reverb. He uses a lot of stuff. His Maestro Fuzz for Satisfaction that he's been using for years. His Phase 100 that you can hear a lot on the Tattoo You album. Of course, his famous Telecaster. Macabre. Do you guys know how that Telecaster got its name, by the way? Anybody know the story behind the naming of that Telecaster? I want to see who really knows their rock and roll facts here. And don't Google it, because that doesn't count. So Paul's got a pedal of the week. Paul, I was waiting for you to bring it up. So pedal of the week, Pole Red Germanium Fuzz. The real thing with new old stock parts, Tone Bender Mark II. Others ask 400 plus for the equivalent, only 130 bucks on Etsy. I'm going to have to check that out. I'm going to see if there's any reviews on it first, though. I've been thinking about getting the Fuzz Bender from Behringer, but maybe I'll get this instead. It's a little bit more expensive, but if it has the germanium, components in it, should sound better, right? Gonna take a look. Presley says Geiger 21-1 tuning keys, Les Paul style bridge and titanium nuts. I'm impressed with the quality. So Presley, what are we talking about here? Is this what's going into your latest build? I didn't see the previous. I didn't see the previous comment. Presley says I got my Tweed PV Classic 30. I used to have one of those too. I used to like that amp. I had a few different versions of the Classic 30. I had the one speaker version, I had the two speaker version. I kind of like the two speaker version more. Sounded better in my opinion. Those amps are they're very versatile amplifiers, those Classic 30 amps. Alrighty. I'll tell you the story. Well, I'll tell you how it got its name if you want to know. The Keith Richards Telecaster. I'm just waiting to see if anybody has an answer. By the way, did you know that famous Keith Richards 53 Telecaster was actually a gift? Keith Richards received that Telecaster from none other than Eric Clapton back in 1970 for his birthday. It's many, many birthdays ago. At that stage, Keith modified it into the 5-string version that you see today for his open G tuning that he uses all the time. And I don't know if the brass bridge or the custom humbucker made a difference, in the sound, but and the flipped control plate. He has the control plate on his Telecaster flipped the other way for convenience. This guitar actually came with a humbucker. This is not the original configuration. It actually had a humbucker in the neck position. But I took it out. I'm not a huge fan of having a humbucker in the neck position of a Telecaster. I like the Tele sound more than that. Yes, indeed, Shane, that is correct. Jeff Beck gave his Telecaster to Jimmy Page. Yeah, during the Yardbirds. Yeah, that is correct. We can play rock trivia. That's maybe something I can set up for next time. So I'll tell you where it got its name. The guitar's name was named after Wilkins Macabre. And basically, it's a character from the Dickens novel, David Copperfield. So that's where he got its name from. So if you're wondering, it's not named after Mick Jagger. That's the fun fact for today. There's also, I mentioned the Fender amp. There's also a new amp coming out that you've probably already seen flooding YouTube, the Supro Airwave. And I've had my eye on Supro for a long time. I've actually owned the dual tone, which I no longer own, and I regret selling that amplifier. It sounded glorious. I shouldn't have sold it. I told you the story last week. I've been trying to get another one and been difficult finding one, but maybe I don't need it now because Supro's just released this new Airwave amp, and apparently it's got like a lot of fun built into this thing. It has tube circuitry. It's not transistor, so you can get all that nice Supro sound, but it comes fitted with an onboard cab sims. So I think those are provided by Two Notes, the people at Two Notes. So basically you have a wider array of historic and more modern Supro sounds in this amp. So I'm wondering how it's gonna fare in the market. I'm not a huge fan of the look of the amplifier, I gotta be honest. I think if they would have stayed with the classic look and have the knobs on the top of the amp as opposed to the front, it would have looked nicer. They changed it a little bit. So I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna see what kind of sounds you can get out of this thing. But it's interesting that they've collaborated with Two Notes. I don't think that's bad. I think Two Notes definitely makes great stuff. So that's going to be interesting. And also Gretsch has come out with the Broadcaster, the LX, and the Junior. So if anybody is a Gretsch fan, I think there's a few people like that in the house. There's some very nice looking guitars coming out. And they both have that center block, and they look really nice. They haven't changed the look or made them look goofy in any way. They've stuck with the classic Gretsch design. So if you guys are interested, you should check them out. The Broadcaster. Lots of interesting stuff coming out. All right. Hey, Mazzetti. How's it going, man? Jeff says, yeah, I like the tweed sound. I have a Sir Ombre. It's not a tweed, but a brown face Princeton. It's awesome with a pedal or two. Yeah, I've seen those. I actually looked at those when they came out. I was actually quite interested in them. Not cheap, though. They don't give them away. But it's a nice, I mean, Sir makes very solid amplifiers. You won't be disappointed with that. I was looking at a Tone King, the Gremlin, recently, which is also kind of like a tweed style amplifier. And again, the only reason I didn't pull the trigger on it is just because I feel like I might be a little bit too limited. For the amount of time that I need that tone specifically, I can probably get it out of my fractal without any issues. So, do I want to spend $1,500 on an amplifier just to get that one sound? Not right now. I prefer to spend that on something a little different. All right, guys, I want to remind you guys, please give me a thumbs up. It helps the channel tremendously. I would definitely appreciate seeing some thumbs up. And if you guys haven't subscribed, obviously, please subscribe, especially if you're new, because we do this every Sunday. So if you like this kind of talk, gear talk, we go off the rails a little bit from time to time, but mostly it's gear talk. So yeah, that definitely helps, and your subscriptions are appreciated. I also put out reviews on a regular basis as well. So if you enjoy this, you'll probably enjoy some of the reviews that I put out. Last week I mentioned I wanted to talk a little bit about this guy because I ended up buying one of these because I'm a big fan. This is, can you see that? Can you see that? There we go. This is a strobe tuner by Peterson. These things are really good. I've been using the app on my phone for a long time just for when I do setups on guitars, because there's nothing that beats a true strobe tuner for when you're doing things like intonation. You can do it with a regular tuner, but it's not as granular. You can't see the details as much. And so with this you can. I'm sure you're familiar with this. They're not inexpensive, but they work really well. I mean, right now it's off, so I don't think you're gonna see anything. But if I turn up on my guitar, so you can see that, right? You see how it moves? So as you tune up or down, the little circle will turn more aggressively or not, depending on how well you're tuned. Can you see that? And that's fantastic when you're trying to adjust intonation on your guitar, because you think it's good when you're doing it with a regular tuner, but when you try it and you look at it with a strobe like this, it's usually not on the button. It's very difficult to get it on the button. And I'll be doing a full review of this thing. It's well worth the money, guys, if you're serious about setting up your guitars and you do want to have the best method to tune your guitars. I definitely think the Peterson stuff is amazing. It's always been the best, I think. Alrighty. So what else, guys? I want to throw open the floor to discussions, because I'm doing all the talking here now. I want to hear from you guys. What have you guys been looking at? What have you guys been doing? To be honest, when it comes to sound recently, I've been messing around with my surround sound system more than my gear lately, at least for this past week. Gene, yes, it'll do acoustics, no problem. As long as you can plug into it. There's no microphone on it. You got to be able to plug into it. So if you have an acoustic that has an output for audio, yeah, it can do that. Yeah, Rick says the Con strobe tuners used to be so expensive. Yeah, and they used to be big too. I remember those. Yeah. Shane wants to know thoughts on Richlight fretboards. Are you considering getting something that has a Richlight fretboard? Gene says, so it won't do all acoustics? No, it won't do all acoustics. It doesn't have a microphone built in. There's no mic on this thing. It's made specifically for electric guitars mostly. So you can get the app. They do have an app on the App Store, and I've been using that for a long time, and it works really, really well. And you can use the speaker and microphone on your phone, and it'll do the same thing. Back in the day I bought that, I probably have had that on my phone for the better part of 10 years. I've never deleted the app. I paid it like $9 at the time, which I thought was a steal. And it works really, really well. You'd be surprised how well it works. So the Richlight fretboards, I don't have an issue with it. I mean, honestly, today, a lot of companies are using so many different materials to mimic the look of ebony or rosewood when they're not actually ebony or rosewood. I have no problem as long as it's well made and there's no issues in terms of quality control. What I don't like though is having I don't like having pale fretboards. If there's sometimes you'll see Gibson using different types of fretboards, Fender using different types of fretboards that are not as rich looking. I like them to be dark and I like them to be rich looking. Other than that, I really don't care what they're made out of, as long as it works and it plays nicely and it doesn't warp. Um, I don't like the Chinese stuff that leaves stains on your fingers. A lot of times they stain the fretboards. You've probably seen these. And then you play for a while and you look at your fingers and they're all like dark looking. I'm not crazy about that. So yeah, I think other than that though, I don't have an issue. I think even Martin uses composite materials now on a lot of their guitars. I like ebony too, Shane. I think ebony is the best. It's getting harder to get guitars that have ebony fretboards on them though. MFN wants to know if I have any recommendations for a parlor style acoustic for under 750 bucks. I mean, there's a lot of companies making great acoustic guitars today. I like to go with Martin. I know Martin now usually doesn't have that many guitars under 750 bucks, but you can get them used. And don't overlook the used market, man. There's a lot of great Martin guitars that pop up used for under 750. Taylor makes some really nice ones as well. I just saw, I think, one or two over the weekend when I was just scrolling Marketplace. There's a lot of Taylor guitars out there, and they sound good. I used to own a Taylor guitar, acoustic guitar too, before I got my Martin, and that was a really nice guitar. If you want to go even less expensive, you can also look at some of the Sigma guitars. Now they're made in China, but the Sigma by Martin models, some of them are very good, and they're not that expensive. You can even get them for under. You could get them for about 500 bucks. Often, those are good as well. What else? Alvarez makes very nice guitars as well. I would just recommend that you try and get an acoustic guitar that has a solid spruce top. Try not to get laminated. Usually the solid spruce tops sound better. If you can get solid spruce and solid sides and back as well, that's even better. Oftentimes they'll end up laminating the sides and the back of the guitar, and they'll throw in a solid spruce top on it. But yeah, there's a lot of good guitars out there. You don't have to spend that much all the time. We end up getting sucked in sometimes by the name. I do too, but you'd be surprised how many great guitars, and even brands like Yamaha, for example, they have some very nicely built guitars that sound great. Presley says, Tony, I've been playing my newly finished 24 fret DC, figured rosewood fretboard, quilted maple veneer top, flame mahogany body with a custom tummy cut, Geiger 21.1 tuners, LP bridge, and titanium nut. Sounds like a very nicely full-featured guitar you have there, Presley. Very cool. Speaking of Geiger, I recently picked up a Geiger insert for a Strat, which is basically the two tones and volumes on a circuit board. The type that you can drop in and you can install without necessarily soldering anything. So I want to check that out. I haven't ever purchased anything from Geiger before. This is the first thing. I'm curious to see how well it's going to work and if I'm going to have any issues. I don't know if anybody ever tried one of these. It's kind of the same deal that you get with Obsidian. Obsidian makes some things like that that you can drop into your guitar, so you don't have to necessarily wire them up with solder, which I think is great because it allows you to not overheat the pot, especially if you're like me and you're changing pickups regularly. Pots, they don't like heat, and if you heat them up repeatedly 3 4 times, they're gonna die on you, or they're gonna start giving you issues. So it's nice to be able to use these systems so that you don't kill them. Eddie says, "Good morning, boys. I'm late because my wife made me go to the gym with her." Well, that's good. You got to stay in shape, Eddie. Got to stay in shape, man. All right. So, what else do we want to talk about? Oh, I have a nice round sound system that I haven't hooked up. I've left it for a while. Today everybody's trying to sell you these little bookshelf Bluetooth speakers that, between you and me, is garbage. I mean, honestly, they've convinced us that this is the future and this is what we should be listening to music through. I don't agree. I think they don't sound good. It's just that we've gotten used to crappy sound from our phones and crappy earbuds and crappy Bluetooth speakers and listening to things in mono and all that. So they're trying to convince us that we don't need that, and a simple sound bar with like speakers that are this big are gonna be like amazing, which I don't agree with. So I've actually reconnected all of my surround sound system, sub, center channel, left, right, front channel, rear channel, and I actually have the Atmos system, which actually even gives you the ability to project sounds above you, which I haven't actually hooked up yet. And I was listening to it yesterday. My wife and I were watching a movie, sounded glorious. And I'm like, yes, this is the way music and movies are supposed to sound. And it's amazing how people just get convinced to go in the opposite direction. And they're paying premium dollars for stuff that is not even good. And I started looking at on the used market because, I'm always shopping for a good deal. There's so many great speakers out there right now for sound systems that are basically almost being given away. It's amazing. And I don't know why more people don't just snag up these deals and just build up a nice system for their house. So I'm going to be checking out some specific speakers later today, actually, just to give my system here a little bit more of an upgrade. I might come home with a few new speakers. So it goes beyond here, guitars and amps and stuff like that. And it trickles over. Obviously, if you're listening to music and you enjoy music, you should have a good system to enjoy music with. And I like to make sure I do. So Rick says, buy a Bose Bluetooth. I don't, again, I'm not a huge fan of the Bose systems with the little speakers. I prefer, full-size speakers as much as I can get them. BC Rich 581 says, use a set of Geiger knobs and control panel cover on a bass assembly project, and they were good. They were a good deal for that effort. David, absolutely, man. 100% correct. If you're going to spend money, especially if you're looking at building a surround sound system, do not skimp on a sub. The rumble is where the money is. If you don't have a sub, you're not going to get that excitement, I was watching Gray Man yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw that movie. It's a pretty good movie. Can't complain. Anyways, it sounded fantastic, man. With that sub rumble. Make sure you got the crossover frequencies dialed in with your front speakers and you're in business, man. Beautiful. BC Rich 581 says, tried one of those large Marshall Bluetooth speakers and it was a supreme disappointment. I know which ones you're talking about. They were selling them at Costco not too long ago. And I took a look at one. And I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't convinced. EF says, I recommend the Focal Alpha 5-inch. Steven says the Bose 901s. The ones I have, since I'm in Canada, there's a lot of great Canadian companies like Totem and Paradigm and a few others. I went with the Paradigm speakers because they're not expensive and they really punch above the price point that they're selling at. And I'm spoiled because I can go on Marketplace and throw a rock and hit five people selling these speakers, and they're great. So based myself mostly on those, and I'm pretty happy with that. I have a nice Denon surround sound receiver amplifier, and it's great. It really works well. I like to hear the rumble. I tried Harman Kardon at one point, and I found they were a little bit too harsh sounding. They weren't as warm sounding as the Denon that I have. Before the Denon, I had a Marantz receiver, and that sounded really good too. Just that it became old over time, and it didn't have all of the outputs, the new HDMI inputs, and Bluetooth, and all this kind of stuff. So I eventually upgraded. But it's still a fantastic receiver. I still have it. I'm gonna put it on another TV with some other speakers and just go with that. Steven says Jurassic Park is a great movie in surround sound. Yeah, it is. It is. The Meg is also pretty good. There's especially the opening sequence that's mostly CGI. I mean, the movie itself, not that great, but the sound is good on that movie. It's pretty well done. BC Rich says focal speakers are like 700 for a pair, which really seems excessive to me, although they're really fine studio monitors. Yeah, I mean, look, what it boils down to is how long you want to enjoy the sound for. If you spend money on good quality speakers, you're going to enjoy them for a long time. If you end up buying cheaper speakers, like you can go Sony, you can go, brands that are not necessarily known for high-end speakers, they're more consumer grade speakers, they'll work. I'm not saying they're not going to work, but over time, you're going to want to upgrade. Zach says, at one point, I lived in a building on the first floor. On the third floor was two young guys. They had a surround sound. I heard that thing on the first floor. That's when you know you're getting full rumble. I was playing the Meg the other day, and I was just setting up the surround system because you can balance it and you can do all kinds of things to make sure it's working properly and everything's working smoothly. So I was kind of doing more of a setup thing. And when that rumble kicked in, my son, who's on the third floor, is like, what's going on down there? Everything's shaking up here. And I'm like, yeah, it's working. Rick says Marshall Bluetooth totally blows goats. Stick with beer fridge. Yeah, if I buy anything from Marshall, that's what I've had my eye on. And even the beer fridge, I'm not sure how long it's going to work. A lot of those things have bad compressors on them, so they don't even cool very well. But that's repairable. The only thing that I think Marshall's doing a really good job with is the headphones. They actually have the new version of the Bluetooth headphones, the Marshall headphones, which actually sound very good. So if you're gonna go Marshall, probably stick with that. Eddie says, I like the Dominator MX10 stereo speakers. You'll have them forever, and when you die, they can bury you in them. Yeah, like the huge old JBL speakers that they had back in the day that were like, bigger than a TV, basically. Yeah. There's a lot of great brands, Boomerang. So many. Too many to mention, man. But yeah, if you guys don't have a surround system, it's a good investment. If you enjoy watching movies and getting the full experience, that's you can do it with a really nice surround sound. And honestly, they're not that expensive anymore. Like I said, go used. You can get great deals. Anyways, enough about that. Let's talk about other things. One of the other things I wanted to mention before I forget, do I have it here? Yeah, I think I do. It's over here. I also grabbed one of these because there's been a lot of talk about this. Can I open the box? Just got this recently. And probably you guys have seen this. This guy. Have you seen that? I'm sure you have. A lot of people are talking about this thing. It's the GP5 from Volaton. A little mini, look how small it is. It's tiny. It's a mini multi-effects unit. I played this for a while the other day, just listening to it. It actually sounds very good. And I'm going to do a review for you guys because I think this is really cool. A really cool little piece of gear, not that expensive. So if you don't need a full fractal unit, or you don't have to, you don't have the money or the budget for a line 6 unit or something like that, or maybe you just want to add this to your pedal board, just squeeze this one in there, man. They won't even know that it's a multi-effects unit. And it sounds great. I was blown away. I mean, it's incredible what they can squeeze into a small pedal today. So that's going to be coming up this week as well. Okay, guys? I mean, I gotta hustle and get a lot of these things out to you guys because there's a lot of great stuff coming out. I don't even have enough time to review something and there's something new coming out. It's like I'm trying to keep up. There's just too much stuff. David said, my dad always says the bigger the speaker magnet, the better the sound. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. If you ask your wife what she prefers, a 10-inch or a 12-inch, she'll probably say the 12. And I'm talking about speakers now. So, I agree with you. The bigger the better, man. EF says sub-frequency waves are really long waveforms. You won't hear those frequencies accurately unless you have enough space. I don't know, man. I hear mine accurately. I think it's really the question of quality. Subs, there's a lot of cheap subs that will basically just give you noise, rumble. When you buy a sub, you want to buy a sub that's musical. You want to be able to play music and have the sub take over the frequencies when it gets to the lows smoothly and sound nice. If it doesn't do that, don't buy it. A lot of the subs that they sell today, these plastic subs that you see at Costco and whatnot, don't buy those. First of all, you're not going to get a lot of rumble out of a speaker this big. You need a decent sized speaker. It's going to move air. Okay. There's a lot of great sounding subs. The one I have is old because I bought it a long time ago. It's made by a company called Velodyne, but it sounds great. And I've kept it all these years. Still works great. Not a problem. Have you tried the GP5 with headphones? I have a GP100 and it's great. I haven't tried it with actually, yes, I have. That's how I plugged it in initially with headphones. And it sounds fantastic with headphones. Very cool. It makes for a really nice practice unit as well. You can practically put that in your pocket. Just put your headphones on, take that, bring it into your room and play. It's fantastic. Another really great reason to grab one. All right. Hey, let's answer that question, that skill testing question that we had earlier. I don't know if anybody else answered it. Let's see here. I think there might be a couple more. Yeah, there's a couple of more of you that answered the question. So let's get to that, all right? So the skill testing question today was, why are fret markers typically placed on the 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, and 12th fret of your guitar? And it's funny because we all play guitar. We've been playing guitar for a long time. A lot of people don't really know the real answer to that. A lot of times people just say, well, it's a reference, to be able to know what position you're in, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th. Yeah, it is a reference for sure. But why are they in those specific places? That's the question. So the answer is, I'll tell you what most people answered. And most people, thankfully, got the answer right. The 41% of you got the answer right. But there's still 30% of you, 30%, 22%, and 7% that didn't get it right. So maybe you can learn something here. All right, so let's start with the wrong answers this time. So 30% of you have answered that they highlight root positions in the circle of fifths. So I'm glad that you know about the circle of fifths, but that's not the right answer. They don't highlight the root note of the circle of fifths. That's not the right answer. So wrong. 22% of you said to maintain symmetrical space across the fretboard. That's not the right answer either, unfortunately. It might seem that way when you look at it. You're like, okay, yeah, it's basically popping up roughly every 3 frets, except when you get between the 9th and the 12th. All of a sudden, it's 4. And then the 12th to the first position here, you're getting another 4 here. So it's like, why is that happening? So that's not the right answer. And then 7% of you said to indicate where to place bar chords most often. And we know that's not true. You don't have to put bar chords here. You can put them anywhere. Doesn't matter. So the actual answer is, and 41% of you got that right, they align with natural harmonic nodes and key musical intervals. So if you got that answer right, you've probably seen the explanation. The explanation is that these dots correspond with musically significant fret positions, like the perfect 4th, that's on the 5th fret, perfect 5th, which is on the 7th fret, the octave on the 12th fret, and they also happen to align with key harmonics used in advanced techniques. Okay, so hopefully I've given you something to think about, and you'll be less stumped. If somebody pops up with this question randomly, you'll have an answer. Zach says, yesterday you went to a customer appreciation day at Long and McQuaid, and I met up with another Canadian YouTuber, Ben Combs. Yeah, I know Ben. Ben's been on my show. Have never been invited to his show. but he's been on my show. I invited him over on my show. He's a cool dude. I like Ben. So which Long and McQuaid did you happen to run into him at? David says, I learned about harmonics on the markers when I was trying to figure out Horizons by Genesis, Foxtrot album. It's all harmonics. Beautiful song. Yeah, it really is. Beautiful. Yeah, if you can do harmonics, your guitar has to be set up nice to get all those harmonics to come out nice and clear, though. So that's where the strobe tuner comes in, and getting your guitar set up and all of the intonation right and everything. So don't skimp on that, guys. It's very important. Oh, and if you don't have one of these, get one of these. These things are like, they're cheap, but you need one of these, man. I don't know if you know what these are. I've had this for a long time. This one is, it's called the Stretcha. And basically you can do this with your hands. You don't really need one of these. But when you're doing a setup, you put this on your strings like this. And it basically pulls the string. You go up and down a few times, especially on new strings when you're doing a setup. And it stretches out the string. You know that break-in period when you're trying to get your guitar to be tuned up properly, and it just takes a long time, and you find that you're constantly tuning your guitar because the strings they're still stretching, they're relatively new, and it takes a few days for them to settle. Well, you can cut that down almost immediately by using this when you change your strings. Take a new string set, put on your guitar, stretch these out a couple of times, and you're in business. And your intonation and your tuning will be much more stable if you do it like that. Well worth the money. It's not expensive. You can do it with your fingers too. You don't need this. I mean, you can just take your string and stretch it, but it does, it does hurt the fingers a little bit. Ben has generated a few dozen sales for Long and McQuaid. I'm certain. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure he has. Well, if you see Ben, if you see him again, tell him hi. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. I've only intended to stay on today for an hour. We've been on for an hour and 20 minutes, a little longer than I intended, and I got a lot of stuff to do and play and record for you guys. I even have another acoustic guitar here that I'm going to be looking at shortly, and other great stuff, lots of stuff. So give me a chance to get that done for you guys so that you have something fun to watch this week. If you guys have any last questions, put them in. I'll try and answer them before we go. Of course, I appreciate you guys tuning in. You know I do. And I hope you guys will continue to tune in on Sundays at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. We try and keep this the same slot. I will be doing a giveaway soon, so stay tuned for that. For the Overloud, THU Overloud software, you can win a license that you can use for that software, and we'll be giving it away on the channel. So I'm giving you the inside scoop so you guys can pay attention. There'll be a skill testing question. You'll probably have to do something to win, but I will be putting that on my regular channel, Addicted to Gear, and you have to play to be able to win. So pay attention. I don't want you guys to miss an opportunity because you guys are cool. You're always here Sunday, and I hope one of you guys actually wins, not somebody that doesn't actually watch the show or participate in the show. I hate when that happens. So I'm going to think of a cool contest so that you guys have a good opportunity to win, and you can actually walk away with a nice license to some really cool software, and you'll be enjoying it. I'm telling you, it's really cool. It's a great thing to have at your disposal. So we'll be announcing that shortly. All right. All right. Zach said he met Ben at the Belleville Long and McQuaid. Ben, it's about 20 minutes away from me. I see. Okay, cool. Yeah, if you see him, just say hi to him. Say hi to him for me. Paul says the dots should relate to the key of C. If they did, they would be on the D, then finding a box that we typically play in become on a dot or sharp or flat. We have to do a show dedicated to guitar theory, Paul, at one stage. There's so much we can learn in terms of theory. So I guess maybe I'll throw in a couple more theoretical tidbits in my show so we can not only talk about gear, but also talk about maybe some musical theory as well. Teach somebody. I think maybe I'll start doing that as well. All right, guys, that's it. We'll wrap it up then. If there's no other questions, then I'll say goodbye so you can have an opportunity to go out there and enjoy Father's Day. If you're a dad with your kids, maybe just grab a guitar and play with them. The guitar, I mean, not the kids. I don't want to be rude. Teach your kids to play or enjoy some strumming with them or whatever. Enjoy your fatherly duties and enjoy the rest of the day and go play your gear. We'll be back with more next Sunday, so don't be late. 10:30 Eastern Standard as usual. If you have any questions after this show airs and maybe you missed it or you weren't able to participate this week because of Father's Day, no worries. Put your comments in the comments below, and I'll answer your questions as well. All right? All right, guys. Have a great day. I'll see you next week. Enjoy.